counseling to help both young people and adults kind of navigate navigate mental health and kind of navigate the different disorders that are out there. So um, I've been practicing my own practice for about 7 years now, and I've been
Okay.
in the mental health field for the past uh, 14 years. I want to say something like that.
Okay. Okay. You know what? And I just messed up. Look, I said I wasn't feeling well. I did all that talking and the intro, and we weren't live. See, this is I got to get myself together. Um, so yeah, y'all, I forgot to hit the button to go live before I introduced. So I guess I got to redo all that. Like, oh Jesus. Okay.
It's
Um,
Saturday is completely fine.
Saturday. I'm on the mend. So yeah, we're talking about narcissism today, y'all. Genesis here, y'all know Book of Genesis, and this term has been buzzing about social media. We don't really know what it is. We went from bipolar to narcissist. We don't even know what it is. So we're gonna have a chat tonight with the professional who's going to tell us all about what it is. And when I hit the button to go live, he was just in the middle of telling us who he is and his history. So, 14 years you've been a counselor, um, doing private counseling, dealing with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Can
in
you?
the field for the past 14, for the past 6 to 7, as a having my own practice in private practice counseling. Um, so I've been doing everything from youth counseling, youth development, all the way up to mental health and clinical mental health counseling. So
Okay.
I've been into a little bit of everything.
Okay. So now that we got all that out the way during my little brain fog, um, what is a narcissist?
So a narcissist, really, I think the best way to kind of think about what a narcissist is it's a collection of personality traits. A lot of times when people think about narcissists, we think about it in one way. Maybe we'll have a conversation with somebody and we'll say, "Oh, this person is arrogant. This person's full of themselves," and then we automatically attach this person is a narcissist. We attach it to it, and we've been doing it so much that it has actually lost a bit of its meaning, because a narcissist is so much more than that. It's actually when you really get to know one, it's actually a little bit dangerous, um,
Okay.
just because their thought patterns are so different and everything is so focused around them that they can often do things that can get another person in trouble, or become violent, or become extremely manipulative to the point where we lose our own sanity, where we're now inside of a toxic relationship. So a narcissist is really categorized by um, so there's two different ways to think about it. One is narcissistic personality disorder, and
Hmm.
then the other is just being a regular narcissist. So for narcissistic personality disorder, you generally have to have about five or more traits. So traits such as a lack of empathy, uh, grandiosity, which is believing that you are kind of living in a fantasy world, believing that you're more than you actually are.
Okay.
And we see a lot of celebrities that actually have this characteristic, that see themselves as so much more important to the world than they actually are. So the lack of empathy, the grandiosity, um, they have a lot of times have a victim mentality, to where they um, they believe that everyone is envious of them and they
Mhm.
envy others. Uh, some of the others are requires excessive admiration,
Mhm.
has a strong sense of entitlement, preoccupation with um, an idealization of like beauty, success, like extreme, has makes their whole persona wrapped around beauty and how much money they have and how
Mhm.
successful they are or how successful they're going to be, and that they're
Mhm.
so special, and they're so special that they can't even be associated with a certain type of people, that they have to have their they can they can only be around people that are of equal or greater value, um, and is manipulative, exploits their
Okay.
interpersonal relationships, um, and things like that. So you think about all those different things. I just named about 7 of them. A narcissist has to have at least 5 of those traits.
Okay, they have to have at least 5 in order to be considered narcissists.
Right.
So, with that being said, then those things that you named, don't many of us have some of those traits or characteristics?
Yeah, at different points in time, we will have, and that's what's important to why we need to really stop calling everyone narcissists, because at different parts of in different points in time, we may have a situation where we display one of these types of characteristics or one of these behaviors. But that's an
Mhm.
important distinction to know, that you can't make the determination that somebody's a narcissist based off of a one-time event. So it has to be a pervasive pattern that causes causes an impairment in an impairment in your personality, or an impairment in the way that you function, or the way that you an impairment in your interpersonal relationships. So just meeting somebody for the first time, and all they do for the night is talk about themselves, that doesn't qualify them as a narcissist, because you don't have
Okay.
enough information to even make that determination.
Okay. So is there a time period where you need to be around the person in order to see these, in order to kind of qualify or quantify um, the things that you need to look for in order to determine whether or not they're a narcissist? Like if I meet somebody
Mhm.
and say within a week, I see, at least 5 of these characteristics. Is it safe to say that they're a narcissist, or do I need to wait some, designated period of time?
So it's actually different for everyone. Like a normal person is probably going to be a lot longer. It's probably going to be over a period of months. A trained professional could, if they speak to this person every day, they could probably get a good sense within a week. But really inside of relationships, this type of stuff, that you really don't start noticing it until a significant amount of time has passed. It could be months. It could be years.
It could
Um,
be years.
because the manipulation is so incredibly powerful that you don't realize what you're seeing until it's really too late, until you're really in a bad place. So a
Place.
lot of people don't are not able to pick up on it.
Is there a, a I don't know, I don't know which word I'm looking for, like a pattern of behavior that is common to narcissists. Like I know, I've heard they talk about, in relationships, there is the love bombing at first, and then it progresses. You know, what are the things that we need to look for
Yeah. So some of
in
the
early
two of the greatest tools for a narcissist is definitely the love bombing and
Mhm.
gaslighting. So with the love bombing, and a lot of us have experienced somebody that behaves in this way, is it's really, you ever met somebody that's just over complimentary, um, places you on a pedestal, and it's a don't get me wrong, it's a great feeling, but this person has kind of going out of their way to make you feel just so incredibly special, and you can do no wrong, and they've never met anybody like you in their entire
Mhm.
life. And they use these types of things because a lot of times these are words and phrases that women really like to hear. They really, because they really want to feel loved. And when you have somebody that's kind of pouring that into you and making you seem like you are just you're an angel here on earth, a lot of times that's love bombing.
Mhm.
Because especially if there's not a significant amount of time that's passed, that to even kind of qualify those things. Like you shouldn't be on a first date with somebody talking about how you can see yourself long term with this person.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So things like that. So love bombing is definitely one. That's one of the things that kind of happens immediately, because that's one of the immediate kind of tools they need to quickly start to reel you in. And
Mhm.
then the gaslighting is the other important element, because with gaslighting, it's such a strong form of manipulation that it makes you start to question whether you're in reality, whether an event that has occurred, if you actually processed it correctly. So uh, a narcissist can cheat on you and find a way to manipulate the situation to make you feel like you were the one that was cheating, or that you were the one that was in the wrong. They and one of the bad things about it is they manipulate the people around you too. So one, they'll either separate you or cause division between you and loved ones to make it seem like it's just you and them against the world, and that they're the only person that can understand you.
Mhm.
Or they'll talk to your loved ones and make them think that there's something wrong with you.
Mhm. I I've been in relationship with a person who I believe is a narcissist. And everything that you described is what happened. There was the love bombing at first, and I wasn't. I, he caught me when I was at a really weird space in life, like had just gone into the church, or the black church as I knew it, and the love bombing came in like immediately, like a flood. And then it turned to criticism. Um it, it turned to criticism, and then the isolation, and the going to the other people, and oh, she's crazy, and all these other things. And then it just kind of escalated. And it's just a wild ride, and it's exactly the way that you described it. Like, by the time you realize what you're in, you're knee deep,
So
and it's like, how do I get out of it?
a lot of times it happens as a cycle. So it starts with love bombing,
Mhm,
and then it goes to devaluing. So they put you on the
mhm,
pedestal, make you feel
mhm.
great, and then they start putting you down. Then
Yeah,
everything that you do is wrong. It causes you to go crazy, thinking like, "What am I actually doing wrong?" So the love bombing, then devaluing, then comes the violence. Not doesn't may not be
yeah,
physical, can be emotional, but something that where you see the true side of them. And then
right.
after the violence, that's you have a moment where you are now ready to leave. Like you feel like you're at your wits end, and
Mhm.
then when you get to that point, then what happens next is called hoovering, which is they begin to try to suck you back in, and
Or
they use more
apologetic.
love bombing in order to be able to do
Yeah.
that. It's
Oh
excessive
my god.
apologizing. You're the only person that understands me. I'm the only person that understands you. We got to work through this together. It's just the two of us. Then they get you back, and then the cycle starts back
Starts
again
over
with
again.
love bombing.
Starts over again. And what you I mean, oh my god, I'm having like deja vu. Just as you described it, is how it happens. Like, um he would like do mean things, like really mean things, say mean things, and then would come back. And because I was like new to this church, I don't want to say church thing, but I was new to church, as I had known it at that point. He would use the Bible and say,
Mm.
well, the Bible says that you have to forgive 70 times seven, so you have to forgive. And then, there's other people saying, well, when you forgive a person, that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. And, so then, okay, well, I have to forgive if I'm going to be the good Christian. And then before you know it, you're back in the cycle, and it continues, and they behave for a short period of time, and then it starts all over again. Like, it's amazing. So, is there a cure for narcissism? Is there treatment? What happens?
So I want to say no. Like the best thing to do is to get as far away from a
Mhm,
narcissist as you can,
mhm,
because narcissists don't tend to go to counseling because
mhm,
they don't see anything wrong with themselves. Like,
mhm.
remember, it's a collection of personality traits. So it would take a lot for a narcissist to understand that they're a narcissist and to actually have a desire to fix some of these issues. A lot of times the narcissist actually brings the person they're in a relationship to counseling and tells the counselor to fix that person, makes it seem as though the person they're with has the issue. So that's not a good outlook for for hoping to heal from or hoping to heal a narcissist.
Okay. Now, we have a question from Adam. Okay. Adam Mia Fitness and Gaming L. He says, "Hi, are most domestic abusers narcissists or personality disordered?"
I don't want to say most. I mean, a lot of them can fall on that spectrum, whether it's borderline personality, whether it's narcissistic personality, whether it's bipolar disorder. I can't give you a hard and fast say that everybody that's in this domestic situation that goes wrong has a mental health condition, because it needs to be evaluated on an individual basis. But
Uh-huh.
a lot of times in these relationships, like a relationship with a narcissist will generally follow that track.
Okay. Hey, Tommy V. So you mentioned spectrum. There is a spectrum that measures just like any other. I know they use a spectrum like for autism and some of those things. There's a spectrum for narcissists.
Yeah, there's diagnostic criteria,
Mm.
yes.
Okay. And but then you said they don't typically go to counseling. So how is it that one usually comes to be diagnosed if they don't seek counseling?
A lot of times the person so a lot of times they come in with through couples counseling, and
Mhm.
a lot of the counseling is actually done on the victim. And once you're hearing the victim's story, you're really evaluating the partner that they're with, and as you're hearing their story and um, hearing all the different symptoms, you can make a general evaluation that you're inside of a narcissistic relationship.
Okay. Um, how do you mentioned if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, then you should get away.
Mhm.
Easier said than done, right?
Way easier, yeah.
Do narcissists typically go away after you separate yourself from them? Or like I've heard that narcissists don't know boundaries.
True. So part of the healing process, or even counseling process, that we take a lot of times with the victims, is specifically on setting boundaries,
Mhm,
because there's a lot of nuances and variables that can come into play, such as children. So
mm,
you may be inside of a situation where you can't fully separate. So once a narcissist has kind of used you up, they can just move on to somebody else, um,
mhm.
and then blame you for everything that went wrong in the previous relationship. But there is a certain sense of still having a sense of power over that person. So if there are variables that are remain inside the relationship, um, such as children, then the most important thing is recognizing how to the correct boundaries to put in place with this person, and the amount of whether it's the amount of contact that you have with them, whether it's the things that you believe that come out of their mouth. Like a lot of that is kind of discussed inside of counseling to make sure that you don't become the victim again of gaslighting or manipulation. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I forgot the original question. I'm sorry. I hope that answered it though.
Yeah, yeah, you did. So you mentioned gaslighting.
Hmm.
Gaslighting goes along does gaslighting go hand in hand with a narcissist, or
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
okay,
That's one of the main tools of the trade.
and what is gaslighting? Because
So
I know a lot of people don't know. That's a fairly new term, at least for me it is.
right. So gaslighting is creating a false narrative and doing it in such a way that it causes you to question your own perception of reality. It causes you to question the sequence of events that have actually happened and whether you are actually in the right or actually inside of the wrong. So gaslighting can be, there's a lot of different, I'm trying to think what's the best example to kind of give. If we're having this, just like we're having this conversation right now, if I
Mhm.
accused you in this conversation right now of being um of yelling at me um or just speaking harshly to me, what
Mhm.
would you say?
I wasn't yelling.
Okay, but what if I said, okay, well, since we've actually been talking for this past half hour, so you've done it 3 or 4 different times, like I'm not understanding how you're not seeing that.
Then I'm gonna go back and I'm thinking about it. Like, was I really? Did I, did I raise my voice at a time, or what did I say? Then
You
you're
see how you're going back.
questioning. Yeah, you're questioning whether or not you raised your voice with the person.
So think about that just happening in general. Like that's a regular part of your relationship. This say this person cheats on you and now you are upset and you're coming after the person like, how could you do this to me? And this person now turns around like, well, what are you talking about? Like you haven't talked to me in I don't know how long. We haven't been intimate in months. Like you act like you hate me. Like I've been so incredibly hurt that I've been going out trying to get any kind of peace that I can, like being able to shift everything around. And if you hear that after a certain amount of time, you're going to start to reflect like, all right, was I really that neglectful of him that like he thought that I didn't even want him? And you start to process it, and you might even get to the point where you're like, you know what? I'm sorry, I led you to this, and it's my fault that this happened. Now let's work through it. And that's when he got you.
Wow. So then they flip it, and then now you're apologetic for something that you didn't even do.
Mhm. And you can get, and you can quickly get when you start to feel crazy from gaslighting, when now you're starting to question everything. It's you're getting you're getting upset a lot. Um, a narcissist can use that against you in such a way to where they'll call your loved ones when you're right in the middle of one of those emotional breaks and call your mom and say, listen, I don't know what's going on with Genesis, but she's just yelling. She's like she's been screaming for the past time. Like I've been trying my best to calm her down, but she just, I don't know how much longer I can take her doing this all the time. Can you please just talk to her because I'm trying to be here for her. I'm
Mhm.
thinking about getting, having her go to a counselor. I'm going to pay for it myself. I'm just trying to find the best way to be able to help her. You see, I can frame it in such a way to where it's like something's wrong with you.
Yeah, that actually happened to me. It actually happened to me. Like I was being taunted. My dad died several years ago. I was being taunted with my dad's death. My older kids, their dad had passed away. He was taunting about that. And we were like taking so much emotional abuse, and after a while then it's kind of like you lash out because you're backed into a corner. It's like, okay, I can't take this anymore. And then at that point, he would get on the telephone with somebody, and he would get on the telephone in the middle of the exchange. So then the person hears what you say, but they didn't hear the part that triggered you. And then it's like, well, she's crazy. I don't know why she's saying this or why she's doing that. And then you're like, did this really just happen? Like, I can't believe that. But then how do you, by then it's looking like you were actually doing that thing. Like, it came out of nowhere. And um in my case, the person, to the outside world was very charming, seemed like he was well behaved and, would never be in the midst of something like that. And behind closed doors, it was a totally different story. So, hey, Jenny. Jenny says hello. Um, Adam says, what causes narcissism? Is it childhood abuse? Hey, Erica, Erica.
So there can be different causes. It can be the relationship with your parents growing up.
Mhm,
Maybe one of your parents is a narcissist, and your upbringing has been shaped in a certain way to kind of promote these characteristics. Also, it can be we live in a culture now where everybody there's like an overall sense of entitlement. Like we give our
mhm.
kids participation trophies and things like that now, even when they don't earn them. The biggest the biggest example that I give a lot of times, that I always get pushed back on, but it's true, is if you're familiar with sports, there's a particular athlete, LeBron James
Yes,
is
I am familiar.
is one of the biggest narcissists on the
Popper.
planet, but this is a special one. It's a covert narcissist, and so a lot of these same personality traits are under the guise of philanthropy and an activist and cares about everybody. Is hidden in such a way to where it causes everybody to think that this person is a saint. But if you look at
Mhm,
the criteria and you actually listen to the things that comes out of this person's mouth,
mhm,
the person is a narcissist. And why I'm saying his case in particular is because this is a media created one. So think about a kid from the age of what, 14, being told that you're the king, that you're being
wow.
told that you're the chosen one,
Mhm,
that everybody is always clamoring to see what you're going to do next. And all throughout your life, throughout your upbringing, you're being told that you're special, you're unique and set apart, that you're destined to be the greatest to ever play a game. That stuff warps your thinking.
mhm.
And
Now,
so,
I mean, aren't we supposed to do that with our children? Like, make them think that they can conquer the world?
yeah, but we can do that in a way that is not giving them an unrealistic fantasy.
Okay.
We can't make them we shouldn't be making them feel like they're the best in the world.
Okay.
Like there's a and that is a I'm glad you said that. That is a huge problem that I have with our current culture. Part of it is because we live in this capitalistic society. But if you look at the kind of the core values that are pushed upon us,
Mhm,
is money, power, and respect.
mhm,
And the way that we receive our images of what it looks like to have these qualities is
mhm,
look at our entertainers, our rappers. What do they show as being important? Having a lot of women, having a lot of money, having the most fancy cars. You see that inside of all of our entertainers. What do we always picture ourselves inside of our jobs? Being the most respected or the most powerful person, being the supervisor of the supervisor. We're always being told to attain more, become the boss.
mhm,
Um, and then so this leads to distortions of that. So think about now respect. Think about a young man and everything, or a young woman and everything that they're being told is valuable in life growing up. having these material things, that being thought of in this way is what it means to be respected, you'll start to do questionable things in order to obtain that respect. In men's case, a lot of times you will now seek respect. If you are disrespected and somebody, if you feel like another man disrespects you, it scuffs your sneaker, you're ready to fight.
Mhm.
If you're inside of a relationship and a woman speaks back to you, you might consider that disrespect. Like, we have distortions on what money, power, and respect looks like. We're not being taught or ingrained in us the core values of humility, loyalty, wisdom, integrity, the less sexy terms,
Mhm.
the character qualities that are not highlighted in society. So it leads us to a lot of us that may not be narcissists. A lot of us will just have narcissistic traits.
Okay. And based on the societal standards of success, or perceived success.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, Brianna asked a question when you were talking about LeBron James about if he was a covert narcissist. So, are there different types of narcissists?
Yes. So there are a bunch of different types. I did name LeBron as a covert narcissist because it
Okay.
was dressed under the guise of the activist, the person that builds schools, and so you have to still think about the criteria that comes to with a narcissist. So one of the criteria being over exaggerates their achievements. One of
Okay.
the achievements that's widely associated with him is LeBron builds
Oh,
schools. He
oh,
pays
okay.
he pays for the goat is one of them too,
Yeah.
but he builds schools. He pays for uh, kids to go to college. When
Mhm.
you have to look at it, is a great thing that was done, but what is the actual truth? You gave money to an already existing school to add resources onto it. You did not build a school. This was an already existing entity. You didn't pay for these kids to go to college. The foundation that you started collects money from private organizations, and the partnership that you have with a certain university said that these kids can come to school with free tuition. So you have to, it's always important to look at the facts. You are, so in reality, he should get an applause for making that happen, for setting that up. But to exaggerate the achievement, say that you built schools and say it plural, you built schools, you're paying for kids to go to college, that part is just not true. And then you also mentioned the whole goat debate, and that's always been a subjective thing. But when you think about it in totality, if you lose close to 50% more than you win, it's a bit difficult to kind of rationalize why you would be the greatest person to ever play a game when there's others that have never lost when they've gone to a finals. There's others that, and listen to the other people that were on a equal or greater level, how they describe their own self-perception, where they say, I can't say I'm the greatest because I didn't play against the people that came before me. You see humility from others, but for somebody to be able to form out of their mouth that I'm the greatest to ever play a game, and what, remember I talked about the distortions, the way that you went about achieving that goal, from going to a team, using up all the resources, playing with the superstar players. They get a little bit too old, move on to the next team with rising superstars. They get a little bit too older or they run out of money, you move on to the next place. It's just like a relationship. Once you've sucked it dry, you move on to the next and best. And so people don't
Never thought
like
about
look
that.
deep enough into these situations to kind of see these things.
Right. So Erica asked the question, what's the difference between being overly confident versus a narcissist? Should we actually look that deep into something?
So, and that's the important thing to note, is that you can't limit it to being overly confident. That's when you really have to understand all of the criteria that comes with it. You have to understand what a lack of empathy looks like. You have to understand what grandiosity looks like. You have to understand what love bombing is. So understanding the different criteria will help you to say, okay, maybe I am a little bit overly confident about my abilities. That doesn't qualify me as a narcissist. I don't want anybody to think that they need to dig. You should not be digging that deep into one particular area. This is a pervasive pattern that you notice over time with uh, with at least 5 or more different criteria points.
So at least 5 or more over time.
Hmm.
So how does for those that are out there dating, how do they look for the narcissist without, you know, the more time you spend with a person, then you've established a relationship after a while, or you're involved in a relationship. Emotions, you're emotionally connected to this person. By the
So
time they realize they're with a narcissist, couldn't it be too late by that point? Or not too late, but, you know
yeah, so yes and no. So there's a particular narcissists tend to go for people that have a strong sense of empathy, that really love
Mhm,
helping others, that really love serving. They tend
mhm,
to really connect with people that have just experienced trauma or some sort of grief, that they just lost somebody. And so the people that are really emotionally vulnerable.
mhm,
So in that sense, like that's typically the prey for narcissists. So it's very hard to see that right off the bat because you're already kind of in a compromised position.
mhm.
So that I would say it would make it really difficult. So, I mean, I really believe that in relationships, after 3 months, you should really get a good sense of who a person is. I would want my goal is for people to have such an awareness that if they happen to be inside of these relationships, that after a few months, like they know how to soberly view a person and to be able to recognize love bombing, to be able to recognize gaslighting, so that way they can say, all right, I love the way this person is making me feel, but I got to keep in my mind this is not real, and I need to excuse myself from this relationship because it's
Really?
just not real.
So, are they as contrived and calculated as that? Like, they're actually, is it premeditated or, you know?
Can you really say something's premeditated if it's who they are, if it's a part of their personality? Like, they might not be dating you and automatically thinking long term, I wonder how much I can get out of this person, or I wonder how I can use this person that in this way. If these are personality traits, these are just ingrained ways of
Mhm.
thinking and behaving. So it's done on an unconscious level.
Okay, it's unconscious, but then when they're seeking out their victims, is it, okay, well, this person, you mentioned somebody suffered a loss. Okay, this person just suffered a loss. Now I can move in, this is a perfect candidate for, I don't want to say my reign of terror, but you
Mm.
know,
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure that's a case by case thing,
uh,
but they are very good at quickly drawing out that information, is kind of finding what are the vulnerable spots, and then once they see what the vulnerable spot is, then kind of diving in, and now let's say you lost someone and you are now you're calling this person every day, just checking in on them, and you're sending them flowers, and you're doing everything to show just how much you're in tune with their suffering, and just overly being there for them. Like it is that is a that can be a calculated thing,
Mhm.
because they know the purpose in which they're doing that. They're doing the love bombing in order to establish that strong bond.
Okay. Erica asked a question. She said, "How can parents avoid raising children like this?"
That's a good question. As a parent, I always like to monitor my motivations in what I'm saying and what I'm doing with my children. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't put any of my failed dreams upon my kids, that I am trying to put in them above anything core values, integrity, loyalty, knowledge, and wisdom. Um, that my focus is having that be such a part of their makeup that even if they don't view something like, even if they don't do some of the things that I do that displays what I believe is integrity, as long as they have a functional working foundation of this is what integrity is, they show that in their own, personalized type of way. As long as they're exhibiting those types of core values, and we're not raising them to be chasing the bag. We're not raising them to um, have to be having a lot of women or having a lot of men, and you know what I mean. We're keeping them away from money, power, and respect, and focusing on integrity, loyalty, wisdom, all the things that actually lead to wealth,
Mhm.
because you get higher positions in your job when you have a good name, when you're found to be a person of integrity. Teaching those the less sexy core values, I think, really helps make sure you have a nice rounded out person.
Now you just made somebody mad with that comment that you said about not chasing the bag, because that is part of our culture now, where everybody thinks that that is the most important thing. You got to get to the money. So when
Why?
you're
That will be my question. What will ultimately, what's it going to bring? What is it going to do for you ultimately?
most people think that the money is the road to happiness. You got to get the money in order to be happy. Integrity is out the window, now, because it's thought that in order to get the money, then you have to step on somebody else's neck or somebody else's back in order to get it. So,
So what's the point in having all the money in the world if everybody hates you? You can have a great quality of life on your own, but to
right.
me, relationships with people just is something that's, you can't put a value on that. Like when you're on your deathbed, if you have a lot of money, yeah, you're going to have a lot of people there trying to get that money in the end. But when I'm in my casket, I want people to show up and say, I feel like I'm a better person because I knew this person or because I was around
Right.
this person. Just that's a personal thing for me. I think, like, I look at that as being more valuable. Like I knew I was always going to be successful because I tried to live in an upright manner, and I'm a believer. So I knew that God was going to take care of me. My job was to learn how to be content in the states that I'm in, to be ambitious, to make sure that I'm always keeping a good head on my shoulders, that I'm seeking to help others more than I'm helping myself, like just things like that.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna probably tick somebody off with this next question. But before I ask this question, let me welcome our next guest, Jay Boogie, freelance HD, to the show. How are you tonight, sir? I'm about to cough. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. You allowed. What's up, good people? How y'all doing?
How you doing, sir?
All right, all right. I've been listening to everything. I got so many questions, but I'm a yield until I
Okay.
get an opportunity.
I have. I'll ask this one question and then I'll turn it over to Jay Boogie for his questions. So you're a believer. Um, when we're talking church and pastors and sermons that are delivered, in some places, they are everybody in church ain't saved. And all pastors are good ones. So in the ones where they're creating these false narratives that they're pushing to the congregations, would you say that that's a little bit narcissistic? Or
Are you
no?
talking about like health, wealth, and prosperity, those types of things?
Yes.
Um,
And then, there's those, you know, I don't know what they call them, where, they're touching them and they're healing cancer, and, they're selling water.
okay, so
Those things.
I hope that I don't upset the Christian community,
Okay.
because my opinions are my opinions. These are not clinical opinions when it comes to church.
Right.
I don't believe in the whole health, wealth, prosperity. Put your hands in the atmosphere and receive your blessing, and keep giving money so that God will bless you. Sow a seed of $100, and in the mail, God's going to send you $50,000. I don't believe any of that, because I believe in the value of working, and that God knows your heart. And if I needed more money to do something, God gave me a brain to be creative, to be innovative, to do things that I can get more money for a specific purpose. If my heart is right, if I have a desire to expand my counseling practice, and I need funds to do that because I want to be able to provide people with free counseling or sliding scale, God gave me enough intellect to be able to do the things that I need to do. So I'm not as familiar on exact scriptures, but I just remember times in the Bible where people would just do things that caused them to have wealth. It was it Jacob who did something with like coating sheep or something like that. I need to find the exact scripture. But doing thing like Paul was a tent maker. Like, people had trades, people had professions. They were able to earn their way. Nobody put their hands in the air and said, God dropped down $1 million. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people take the blessings of God and take them way out of context and manipulates. And I see that in so many churches. Like, I believe the church is definitely the breeding ground for borderline personality, for we have some bipolar stuff. Like, think about it. Church gives you the wide spectrum of emotions. New pastors coming in, they have not done their job unless they got you shouting, unless they got you falling on the ground, convulsing. They will get you hyped up to shout, and then in the next second, they want you down crying and laying out and slain in the spirit. Like,
well, that's why that's where I was going with that. Like, they make them question reality on some level.
No, they turn them into functional addicts. How many times you got a person saying, I need to come to church because I need a word.
Right. I need a spirit.
Yeah.
With that being said, does that put the followers in the same category as narcissists? Let me give an example, because I didn't even come here for this, but Sister Genesis, you brought this up. So I've been doing video production for a good number of years. And so I was hired by a church to come in and do video for the church. So I'm there to shoot the sermons as the woman is doing the sermons. and she was one of the type of what are they called, evangelistic or something like that. But she would do the whole like putting hands on you and pray over your water and stuff like that. And so I'm there to do video. So the very first time that I'm there to do video, I wasn't prepared for what I was going to see that day. Okay. So she calls people up to the front. She puts the head on the forehead. They pass out, they fall out. Now, mind you, I'm there taping. So these people have now seen that there's a camera involved. Okay. So now this is turned into a whole show. Like everybody want to get up because it's like either A, that wanted to be part of the service, or B, they want to be part of the show because now the camera's involved. Mm-hmm. So I'm there for some weeks. I'm there for some weeks doing taping, and I'm interacting with this pastor. Like once we off to the side and she's off stage, for instance, her thing, she's saying things to me like, hey, look, check and dig. This is a business first and foremost. So she's sharing different things with me behind the scenes until one day, my grandmother was ill at the time. And so one day she says, okay, brother, I want you to come up and I want you to, she's talking to me, the cameraman. I want you to come up and I want you to put your shoes up on the altar and I'm going to pray over your shoes. And I'm like, look, with all due respect, I don't choose to partake. I couldn't make a whole scene because, this is during the service, right? But I'm like, no, thank you. I don't feel comfortable. They called me the day after and fired me simply because I would not partake in the service.
Wow.
So I say all of that to say behind the scenes, like what I know now after dealing with the firsthand with the narcissist, I can go back and look at her behavior, but not only the behavior of her as the pastor, but the people that would fall out on the floor. Because I know darn well, that's not the word I want to use. I know damn well you're not passing out with the spirit. Okay. Because I'm the cameraman. I'm the one that edits the footage. When I go back and edit the footage, I'm looking at you looking at the camera with one eye open, like, is it still looking at me? Come on, man. So everybody got a part in this. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but so I don't know if that pastor was a narcissist or not, but they tend to be very polarizing people. Like you either have this delusional sense of love and admiration for them, or you hate them. There's not a lot in between. Think about Donald Trump. You either hate that man or you love him.
Yeah.
Think about LeBron James. You either hate him or you love him. Like they have those. They have such a charisma or an aura about them that it can draw people in. It can draw a lot of, I don't want to call them weak-minded in a derogatory sense, but people that are really susceptible to emotional manipulation. It's so much easier to draw them in and manipulate them.
Okay. Now, I said I was gonna Jay Boogie ask his questions and I'll ask my question.
No,
later.
You got questions. I am a guest. I cannot take over the show.
Okay, one last question. I promise I'm gonna turn it over to you for your question. People who have encountered a narcissist, are there after effects? When I know that part of your counseling has been treating people who suffer from PTSD. Is there PTSD after dealing with a narcissist typically?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of after effects. There is treatment for narcissistic abuse. So a lot of people that have been inside of narcissistic relationships, they'll come out with depression, anxiety, symptoms of PTSD. And we have now kind of made anxiety and depression very light terms, but you have to really put that into context. You can leave a relationship with a narcissist and you can feel a sense of hopelessness to where it's like things that you used to love to do in life or that you used to look forward to now mean nothing to you. Like imagine that kind of life where you just wake up and it's like, I don't even know why I'm awake. Like it'd be better if I just didn't wake up. There's literally nothing for me to look forward to. That's a horrible, horrible feeling. It's the deepest pit. It's like a hole in the pit of your stomach. Like it's a very serious thing. The anxiety. Think about after being with a narcissist and you try to get back into the dating scene. You've had such a distorted view for so long of love because you've experienced the highest high of what you think love looks like inside of love bombing, and now you're very wary and leery of anybody showing you any form of kindness. Now you're looking at them side-eyed. Now you're still questioning whether what you're seeing and what you're feeling is real. There's a lot of, all of that stuff has to be processed, and like you need your whole system reset. So counseling is incredibly important after those types of relationships.
Wow. All right, Jay Boogie, you're up.
I'm gonna say, brother,
Hey,
I'm
Mr.
a little triggered after that. I'm a little triggered after that because I understand exactly what it is that you're talking about, and it's a very difficult thing to bounce back from, and it can take years. I guess it depends on the person. One thing that I wish that I had done sooner was go into counseling sooner, because that's just something that I'm not going to blame it on the community. It's just something that we take as a form of weakness sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And but when you do have those type of feelings and type of thoughts, a lot of time people are just like, well, suck it up, and it's once you have dealt with that level, a real life narcissist, I don't think your life is really ever going to be the same again after that. The way that you look at things and the way that you process things after the fact is very different. Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is why I hate that counseling is so heavily stigmatized in our community, because especially think about a black man that has been in a relationship with a narcissistic woman. Like you have a lot of really good men that tried their best inside of a relationship, tried to do everything that they could, even when the relationship was failing. They were always trying to find a way to keep things together. They were always trying to make the person happy, just to find out that there was no such thing as making person right? Happy. And you cannot go out and talk to anybody about it because you're going to be looked at as weak. So you keep it all inside. And where does all that stress go? The number one killer of African American men is heart disease. We keep the greatest levels of stress because we will not tell anybody what we're going through, because we have to keep this image of the strong man that nothing can get to us. We are not going to cry in front of anybody else. We're not going to sulk in our situation. And as a result, we're going to die early.
Damn, wow. That's deep. That's deep. Wow. That's deep. So I guess my question would be, because once you realize that it's not you, I think I realized it. I came to that realization way too late in the game. Right. I just came from another stream before coming over to Genesis, and that one was talking about kind of like physical abuse, right? When you or accusations, false accusations, right? So sometimes what I've learned with a narcissist is once you have served your purpose and you're no longer on their program, on their page, they will go to extremes in order to exit you out of the situation. Oh, yeah. And so that was something that I encountered with on the way out. I was falsely accused of abuse. So the icing on the cake was not only the treatment that went on during the course of the relationship, but on the way out, it was like, okay, I get this accusation of being abusive, right? Mm-hmm.
Okay, rewind, because I missed that. So at the end, so we know that, once the victim has served their purpose, they're
Mm-hmm.
dismissive and they go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, when they're dismissive, they do something like go out with a bang, basically.
I'm
There's
not saying that's always the case. I'm saying in my
okay.
particular case, I'll make it very, very quick, just bullet points. We finally went to counseling, okay, because we were going to counseling to fix me, okay. So we go to counseling, but I agreed to go to counseling if we went to a couples counseling, okay. We go to couples counseling. She picks the counselor, all of that. We go. We sit down after 3 sessions. I don't know how they did it, but the person was good at their job, and they started like honing in on her. Okay. And they noticed that there was something problematic. Again, after 3 sessions, I don't know how they did it because I have been going through this for a few years and nobody else saw this.
About that before you join the stream, he talked about when they go to couples counseling, that's usually when they're diagnosed, when they're treating the couple, the counselor notices through the couples counseling who the narcissist is.
Oh, I didn't even know y'all talked about this. Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, this is what happened in real life. Okay, so by the 3rd session, they started pinpointing some things, and then she went into a shell, and I knew the shell because I see it all the time. I would see it all the time, to where she was like, That's when I know she's tuned out. She's not even listening anymore. She said, you know what? She got up, she walked out the session. Okay. So on the way home, she's like, yeah, I don't know how you turn these people against me. I don't know how you did. I'm like, yo, these are people you chose. What are you talking about? And so the next day, this accusation comes out where she's leaving, and she said, yeah, and she's telling her people the reason she's leaving is because I'm abusive. Now the dude, the counselor, when she left, because she was pregnant at the time, he was saying that a lot of he gave me this whole thing that months later wound up coming true. Okay. But because she had put that accusation out there, whatever I would say to her people about what the realization that came into counseling, it was dismissed because I'm an abuser. You understand what I'm saying? So, but I was explaining on the other panel, once a person makes that type of accusation, there's nothing kind of like from male perspective that from your reputation, it's very hard to dispute a woman that's saying, hey, this man is abusive to me, because they didn't know the underlying or the backstory that went with it. They just went off of what she said. And it's very hard to counteract that as a man,
And that's why one of the things that I said, that it can be dangerous to be inside of a relationship with that person. Like, I truly believe that there are a lot of good men that are in prison because of narcissistic women. Because think about the manipulation and the gaslighting and getting so far to the end of your rope where you just lose control. And let's say you're in an argument and you lose control, and you grab her arm just to say, listen, would you just please listen to me for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
In her mind, she can reframe that and say, well, you grabbed my arm and broke it in 5 places, and then you threw me against the wall, and I'm scared for my life. Like this, it is real. It can go that far, and they will tell other people that, because it's not about whether it's true or not. It's about the narcissistic supply that they need. They need the attention to be on them. They need to be shown as the victim. Once a narcissist starts to realize that you are catching on to who they are, these behaviors start to show up. And so you get pushed into a corner where they'll start to say things like they'll threaten to kill themselves. They'll use a lot of different tactics to keep themselves, to keep you inside of the relationship and to keep them viewed in a positive manner. They'll use your kids against you. You'll never see your kids again, or I'm going to tell your kids this and this about you.
Yep.
It can get that dirty.
Oh wow. Literally everything he said I experienced.
And do you think that people on the outside, on the outside looking in, or people that have not dealt with this type of situation, you think that they just they lack the real understanding of what this person is going or has been through, the person that's experiencing it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like the manipulation is so strong that the person on the outside looking in can have a distorted view of what's going on too. Like a lot of times they just, again, because we don't really talk about what's going on, they only have the image that they have of the narcissist when they see them. And when you go out with them, they're always the nicest person. They're always the most most
life of the party.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have that strong sense of charisma to it. It's like, man, so-and-so is so lucky that they're with this person. They're just the coolest person. You don't know. When you go home, it is hell.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier about them being with empaths. And Brianna asked the question, what safeguards can an empathic person use?
I can send you the criteria. Look up DSM-5, Diagnostic Statistics Manual of Mental Health Disorders. Look up the 8 or 9 characteristics of a narcissist. Commit it to memory, commit it to heart, so that way, if you are a person that really loves to love and loves to put yourself, like an empathetic person puts themselves in other people's shoes to understand what they're thinking and feeling. So that means you need to understand what all the signs are when that is being abused. And so a lot of times we have problems with people, empathetic people, a lot of times, I won't say a lot of times, but you have some versions of it where they use that side of them in order to boost their own self-esteem. So they will help as many people as they can. They will try to be seen as the person that just cares and does so much for everybody else, and nobody else reciprocates for them. Like you have to keep a sober mind when it comes to that type of stuff and understand what all the criteria are, so that way, if you meet a person like that, you can start to look at their personality over a period of time and say, okay, this is falling under this category. This is falling under this category. And I've seen about 5 traits now, so I need to be on my guard. Like I don't want to tell a person that's naturally empathetic not to be empathetic, because I think it's a beautiful thing, and it's a blessing that there are people out there that love to love. So, you know what I mean? I don't want to shun against that.
And that's the hard part. When you genuinely have a heart for people, there are those that will take advantage of that. They prey on that, in narcissist case. So Brianna also asked, what values help protect a person from narcissistic abuse?
Values for a person to have.
What values help protect a person from narcissistic abuse?
Oh, I would definitely say having a sober view of themselves, being able to, having a strong mind to be able to be decisive in determining whether you are right or whether you're wrong, being able to look on the other side of the coin, not being so quick to accept someone else's critique of yourself. So a lot of time, what helps a narcissist is that when they get you to a point where they can kind of break your mind and make you question your own reality, that's when they know that they got you. So being able to have the type of mind to be confident, and confidence is important, confident in knowing that, like, no, I know that I may not be the best person in the world, but these reasons why you cheat on me do not add up, and being definitive in that. You know what I mean? Like, you really need to just be, confidence goes a long way. And a narcissist would really hate confidence in another person.
Yeah. Yeah. Brianna said that that's what actually made her break up with a narcissist. She read the DSM-V or DSM-5 definition of a narcissistic personality disorder. And then she said,
The greatest thing, your greatest tool is, it sounds cliche, but your greatest tool is awareness.
yeah,
When
Miss
you know the
Creative
symptoms
said
to look
use
for.
common sense.
But do you recommend sticking in a relationship like that, or
No.
once you realize that the person is there, is it just best to leave?
Get out.
Get out.
It don't matter if you're married, none of that. Just be up, right?
If you are making a conscious choice that I know this person is a narcissist and I'm going to stick it out, commit commit a significant part of your budget to continual counseling, because you will need it.
You will need it. You damn right about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I'm going to add another layer, and I don't want to appear like I'm picking on the church or the church folks at all, but the church tells you to do exactly opposite of that.
They ain't
In what
never
way?
no narcissist.
You're supposed to stay in your marriage. You're supposed to work through,
But also gave you a way out. If a person
They're
cheated
not
on you,
supposed to, right? But if they're not cheating, if there's no adultery involved, and you're just dealing with a narcissist, huh?
A lot of times there's adultery involved.
Okay. Now, if there isn't,
well, I'm not a theologian, but I mean, you can separate, I would imagine. You're not allowed to divorce, but you can separate, can't you? The church doesn't condone that either?
I don't believe so. Somebody in the chat or elsewhere correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, no.
See, so it's hard for me to talk about the church, because I believe the church as we know it now is largely incorrect. That it's much more tradition and habits, more so than
relationship.
The reason for the church, which is relationship and fellowship.
Yeah.
So I'm much more likely to read scripture on my own and pray for discernment than to listen to a prosperity pastor.
Okay.
And like,
yeah.
But if y'all gonna preach to me about hell all the damn time, and I'm going through hell right here on earth, it stands to reason that I should be able to get the hell out of hell. I'm just saying. Because anybody that has really dealt with a narcissist knows that it's pure hell. Yeah, and you are on fire daily.
Okay. Lady Hale is giving us some clarification. She says it's not recommended unless agreed upon a certain time. Then she added, because you will end up falling into temptation. The purpose is to talk and work it out.
Okay, so you can separate for a certain amount of time, but the assumption is that you're going to end up
fall into temptation if you're separated.
But I mean, during the time that you're supposed to be working it out, and if you're going to a counselor, you would pretty clearly see that you're not really going to be working things out. Like,
Right.
this is who
If
this
there's
person
no
is.
cure, there's no cure, there's no treatment for narcissists, then, you know, your attempts at counseling will, you know, be futile, basically, because nothing's going to happen except you're going to leave counseling and then they're going to go back to being who they were.
I think somebody, Mr. Bryant said the scriptures said something like,
Yeah.
if a man leaves his marriage, the woman is no longer bound to him. You know, I'll pray every day, but I try to set that person up to leave me. Like, listen, I've been inside one of these relationships before. So I understand that I could have easily been someone that had a child with this person, because your mind becomes so warped that at one point in time I was like, maybe if I have a child with this person, she'll see that I'm really serious about her and that I'm really about her, and that would cause us to become a happy family. Like, your mind becomes so incredibly twisted that you are not the same person that you used to be.
No,
so
bro,
I have an understanding.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
Now, that's also, well, I've heard, I'm going to confirm with you that they like to move quickly. They like to move fast when they're in a relationship or when they're dating. You know, they're in a hurry to get to whatever their end goal is. And I guess that's where I get confused, because if they're in a hurry and they're moving fast, just say in marriage, but then once they've gotten, you know, tired of whatever, you know, the game, they're tired of the new toy, they're dismissive. So why the hurry only to dismiss?
Well, the hurry is important because love bombing has a shelf life. Love bombing is powerful in the beginning stages, because we all have that butterfly stage when we're dating somebody where they can do no wrong, where it's like we love everything about them. That's the best time to use love bombing, because you can hurry up and get this person so reeled in to where they will overlook a lot of the devaluing that happens afterward. So it's important for them to the earlier the better.
Before you realize they're crazy.
Yeah.
Let me trap you.
Yeah.
Let me get you trapped. Let me get you fully invested. Fully invested. I could write a book about it. You heard me?
You know, my story is textbook narcissism, which is scary to me because I didn't see it. I didn't see it until it was too late. And then it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like, wow, my mind is blown. But I have another question, because, you know, I got 10,000 of them. I've heard that it affects males more than females. Is
Like,
that
are you saying that there's more female narcissists or more male?
male narcissists than female?
I would agree with that. I don't know the exact statistics. I would need to look it up, but there are plenty of female.
There are plenty of female. And does it, how the traits or characteristics, does it differ whether the person is male or female? Are female narcissists different than male narcissists, or are they all the same?
I mean, the personality traits are the personality traits. It can, you know, it can show up differently just based on being a man and being a woman. So a woman can use some of the things that men typically value the most. Like, you know, men were really into safety, security, and provision. So a female narcissist knows how to use that to where they can play an innocent role a lot of times and make themselves out to be the saint, to where it's like, I need you to be my strong protector, man, and empower you and make you feel like you're the king of the world. Like, their tools their tools of their trade may look a little bit different. Whereas with with women, men are not looking for safety and security and provision from women. We're looking more for the love and the nurturing and things like that. So what we prey on is going to be a lot more emotional. We're going to draw you in with you. You know what I mean? You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Like, you're the only person that knows me. Like, I've never felt this way about anybody in my life. I could see myself spending a whole lifetime with you. Like those little cute little,
But
words
aren't women supposed to make the man feel like they're the king of the world?
Not in the first week that you met him.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. But you're supposed to be your significant other or your spouse's number one fan, right?
So now, and that's why it's important to understand the cycle, because it starts with love bombing, and then next in the cycle comes devaluing. So now
you king of the world, then you ain't ish.
Mm-hmm. But using that in a very manipulative way, like, oh my God, like when I first, when I met you, you were just like, you took care of me so well, and now a certain situation happens, like, oh, that's not exact. I'm a little bit disappointed. I didn't think that you were like that. And that type of stuff will mess with your head. Like, oh no, I need to get back that perception that she had of me. Like, you can get manipulated in that way.
Miss Creative says, see, that's how you got Genesis. I got like, seriously got.
Now with a question like that, right? And we're looking at it from a male's perspective and a female's perspective. Can you put it in context for us, brother Nelson? Like, is there a character flaw in the person that does get got? Is there something wrong with the person that, they got kind of like sucked into this? Or is it just something that's wrong with the narcissist?
So it can be both. I mean, because the person that gets got could just naturally be a very empathetic person, to where it doesn't impair how they function or anything like that. But after being with a narcissist, all of that can get distorted to the point where now it is a problem. So I think a lot of times it's very normal, naturally caring people that don't take caring too far, or what I mean, like have unrealistic views of like their role in the world, or like what it means to be empathetic. That can quickly just get gaslit and distorted and manipulated to where now they're no longer a healthy mentally, but they need the counseling in order to try to get back some semblance of it. I think it happens to normal people all the time.
Yeah, I'm an empath, and I didn't know that then. That I would be considered an empath.
So what is what's an empath?
Yeah,
I'm caring. I have a heart for the people. A sob story. I'm ready to help them. I want to fix it. I want to help them fix it. Or I don't want to say a giver, but yeah, a sob story is the way to reel me in, and I think that's how my narcissist reeled me in. He had this sad family story, and I could be, my family doesn't care about me. I could be in my place dead for 2 weeks and they wouldn't know. And, it was, oh, they do me so wrong. And he had all these stories about how he was mistreated. And, I'm like, oh my God, because family is so important to me. Then it was like, okay, wow, I feel sorry. And he just wanted a family. So it's like, okay, well, you just want a family, and family is important to me. One day you're going to have this family, and boom, boom, bam, the love bombing started. And, I could just say, oh man, I forgot to get water from the store. I forgot to go buy some bottled water. And he would show up at my house and, call me on the phone and say, look out on your porch. I look out on my porch and there's 2 cases of water there. And it's like, oh my God, he's so thoughtful. He just listens, you know. Oh, I got a taste for gummy bears. Oh, then now I got 5 bags of gummy bears, you know. And
Mhm.
it, it literally anything that I said, you know, he would hone in on all of those things and he would make it happen. And that's how he got me. And you know, they're very attentive in conversation. He was listening to everything I said, and he could, you know, he would play it back, so then I knew that he was listening. And all of that was, you know, a part of his thing.
So
And
I never really liked it when, or completely understood it when people call themselves empaths, because I feel like that's something that should be innate in everyone. We should all seek to be empathetic. We should all seek to be able to put ourselves, like, it's a skill. To be
mhm,
able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. Everybody should have that. I understand everybody doesn't, but I really believe that it has a lot more to do with like family dynamics and the family system that you're raised in, because we all take on roles inside of our family. We take
mhm,
on the hero role, we take on the
there you go.
placater, the person that has to keep everybody on the same page, keep everything running smoothly. We got the black sheep of the family. Like we have all these roles that we grow up inside of. So we do have the roles of the ones that naturally need to be the hero to someone, or that naturally don't like conflict and try their best to stay away from it. So those
Mhm.
types of people are more susceptible to narcissists. So it's just the whole empath thing. I'm like, everybody
Yeah.
should really be like that to an extent.
But you didn't there was a gray area for me. Like my mom, I think was an empath. Like, you know, somebody's homeless, they're down on their luck, you know, she's gonna help them out with money. She would give them a place to stay. And that's kind of what I saw growing up. So then as an adult, then okay, you know, the homeless person, okay, well, I know they have to have a story. So, how is
Mm,
it that we can help them to get out of this situation? So then, you know, that's kind of how with the narcissist, you know, after hearing these stories, okay, well, I want to help you, you know, bridge the gap between you and your family. So now I'm going to help you, you know, well, let's talk to them. And, you know, we're trying to devise strategies and plans to, you know, get this, you know, family meeting together and all of that. And whole time, you know, it's him.
mm-hmm. They're probably
But,
mad at you for bringing them back together.
well, it was fine. But then I realized, you know, when you talked about that, if a parent is, and I think the parent, I know at least one of the parents is also a narcissist,
Mm,
and the other one is questionable.
mm,
But I didn't know that then. I'm just, you know, seeing that later on.
mm,
But I think it was, you know, a learned behavior.
mm. You're probably right.
Well,
Well,
let me ask you this, Genesis.
yeah.
Um, do you feel as though, because of dealing with what you dealt with in that particular relationship, do you think that it's going to be very difficult for you to trust anyone moving forward?
Um, I think yeah. Well, I still have baggage. I'll say that I still have baggage from the relationship. I was in a relationship after that. But it was difficult in the beginning because of that experience, then it changed me in the sense where I was an empath. I was a little bit more reserved.
Mm,
So I wasn't as quick to help somebody or quick to want to, you know, um, save, you know, somebody from a situation. I sit back and just like, okay, well, you know, I'm not getting involved with that. And you are a little guarded afterward because, you know, it's a hellish ride. And once you get free, you're like, I don't want to end up in that place ever again. So then you put up this wall so that you don't get there. And you have to be with somebody, um and I'm not going to say that they don't suffer, you know, but they're helping you tear down the wall that somebody else built, which really isn't fair. But luckily I had somebody that was willing to, you know, to go on the ride with me. But it's difficult. And I had to go to counseling. Um, and counseling helped because then it helped me unpack some of the stuff that I didn't even know, you know, was actually an issue for me. But, you know, the reason why I wanted to have this discussion on the show tonight, because I know that in the Black community, counseling is taboo still to some degree. And we don't talk about these kinds of things. And we definitely are not going to counseling. And I know that there are lots of us that are dealing with narcissists. And if we don't go to counseling, we don't talk about it. We don't have shows like this where people are talking about it. So we see the signs, you know, or even how to navigate those spaces. Then we're just out in the world thinking that we're okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I'm gonna ask the professional this, but if you're in a situation like that, you're in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, you don't seek counseling, you don't even know that you're in that type of relationship, and you move on and just say, you know, it's a repeated behavior. You find yourself in another relationship like that. Then do those people that are repeatedly in those situations, do they tend to pick up those narcissistic tendencies, or do they just become repeat victims?
Are you saying that the person that was a victim of a narcissistic relationship, when they move into another relationship, does the person that they're with pick up traits?
No, the victim in a situation, they move on to a new relationship. Do they pick up those narcissistic tendencies and take that to the new relationship? Or is it over a matter of time? You know, say I've been in 3 narcissistic relationships, then do I take a piece of that with me when I go into a new situation?
I mean, I think you take pieces of it with you, but not necessarily in terms of you emulating the traits of the narcissist.
Right.
I think that it causes you to be more susceptible to more narcissists. Like
Okay.
you are net. So you're in a hurtful relationship where somebody, you know, constantly puts you down, and you went on that roller coaster, and you get out, and now you're moving on. You end up moving on to who? The person that makes you feel good, the person that's being attentive again. Like it just becomes a constant cycle. And because you're coming into it with a lot of baggage, let's say you completely get out of narcissistic relationships, period, and now you're just with a regular good person.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of baggage that you now have could ruin that relationship, because it can become full of accusations. Now you may be looking through their phone all the time, thinking that they're cheating. They'll tell you that they love you, and you're like, I don't want to hear any of that. Show me, don't tell me. And now you got so many walls up that at the end, they're just like, there's nothing I can do that's going to make you believe me. And then it messes the relationship up.
Yeah. I ain't even gonna hold you. I'm gonna be honest with you, and you know, putting myself out there, but you know, I'm not ashamed of it. Been to counseling, all that. I told you she was pregnant, right? When the relationship dissolved. So that's how I can keep count. It's been 8 years. It's been 8 years, and I have not had like a relationship since then. And it's knowing, although I've been to counseling, the walls, I mean, going through something like this, like PTSD, whatever they call it, this stuff is real, man. And it kind of blocks you from even wanting to trust or deal with somebody, because it's like, yo, if I can run into somebody like this, can it happen again? That's my number one question. You start to think, maybe it's something wrong with me. The fact that I even attracted this type of person. So 8 years. I'm not saying that I'll never get into another relationship, but it's hard. It's difficult.
Yeah, because you become really hyper vigilant on like now what this person is saying and what they're doing, and like it becomes so incredibly hard to trust, to where it's like, is it even worth it?
Mm-hmm.
So I completely get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but then if you don't ever get in a relationship, then doesn't that narcissist still have the power or the control to some degree, because you can't move on from them because of what they did to you?
Yeah, it's the unfortunate part, and Brother Nelson kind of touched on it before. He mentioned something like, to where hopefully you catch this before you have a child with that person. Unfortunately, that's not the case with me.
Me
So,
either.
so, so
They move really fast though,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, for sure, for sure. So
and
we had,
I
yeah,
got
yeah, we have two together, and I I really figure it won't be until they hit that age of like 18, because there's a constant, you know what I mean, don't you? It's like a constant tug of war, if you will. And then the kids become involved. And so then they're used as ammunition. They're used as they are weaponized. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
so there's certain things, but I don't look at it as a game. I don't look at it as she's winning. It's just me being smart and knowing what I know the rules of engagement. And so I play the rules. That's just what it is for now.
And that's
I'll
tough for a
absolutely.
person to come into that relate. Like if you went into another relationship, the person that you're with now becomes part of that loop, and that is
There
very
you
difficult
go. There you go.
emotionally for the other person to be a part of.
You know what
It
I'm talking about.
is
Yep.
terrible. It's terrible.
Yep.
And I can say that my narcissist knew no boundaries.
My Marxist.
My narcissist knew no boundaries.
Hmm.
It went to cyber stalking, not
Hmm.
just me, but cyber stalking my significant other, phone calls. I
Hmm.
changed phone numbers. They called the new phone number. They did their digging and had somebody else call first, and like
Hmm.
pretend like they were asking for somebody else, just to, I guess, verify that it was me. And then next thing I know, then the narcissist was sending text messages to the new phone number, and
Hmm.
even calling up my significant other, like calling the significant other to ask for me. It was just crazy. It got to the point where I had no phone contact. Anything related to the kid had to be through email. And then the narcissist still, tried to manipulate through email. So it was kind of like, okay, I've got to go no contact, but then they still continue, or at least my narcissist still attempts to continue the
Hmm.
cycle of abuse, to the point where, I was getting dragged in and out of court for just crazy stuff. I would get, when there wasn't supposed to be contact, I would get text messages. And the text, just one particular example, a text to me saying, "I'm about to call the police and say that I haven't heard from you. And it's, well, how can you text me to tell me you're going to tell somebody
Dumbass.
that you haven't talked to me? So then you're like trying to get out in front of it. So then it's like, now I'm calling the police to tell them that somebody's gonna call on me. And I'm looking like, okay, am I crazy? Do I sound crazy to these people? Because I gotta call you and tell you, well, somebody's about to call you and tell you that they haven't heard from me. It's so embarrassing, but it went on and on and on, and it got to the point where the police came and told me, and they said, you need to try to get an order of protection, because at this point it's harassment. Like, the police were tired. They had gotten so many phone calls.
They were tired. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not funny, but it's funny.
yeah, but then, this brings me around to my next question, because then after the police told me that I should seek an order of protection, I actually tried to do that. And when I went to the courts and I explained it, I get in there and they're like, okay, well, this doesn't seem like an emergency. Well, what are they actually doing? So then it's like, how do you explain this psychological warfare? So then you feel like, okay, well, where do I go for help? Because when you go to the places where you're supposed to be able to get help, it's hard to prove the abuse from the narcissist. If you're a victim of domestic violence, you can go, there's hotlines that you can call, or there's things in place to help you with that. If you're a victim of narcissistic abuse, then there's nowhere for you to go. Or seemingly, I don't know, maybe there is. Maybe Mr. Nelson can tell us, where do you go if you're the victim?
I mean, to a counselor. I mean, I think that, and I need to do my own research to see what other types of resources are out there in terms of like hotlines, because a lot of stuff is going to be dependent on state. But I would honestly tell someone to go to a counselor first, because a counselor would be the person that would have a better ability to explain to law enforcement, sending a letter or explaining to a judge, this is what is actually happening, because they know the criteria, and they'll be better versed in explaining it in a way that makes sense to law enforcement. And a lot of cops have, I was talking to a cop the other day, a lot of cops have actually experienced that type of stuff. So I'm surprised that well, I shouldn't be too surprised that you had that experience, but it's not everybody has the same level of training in law enforcement to be able to see these types of things. But I'll definitely need to do my research to see what, if you don't mind me asking, what state?
I'm in Illinois. I'm in Illinois.
Okay. So I would need to look up resources specific to there, because I haven't seen too much. And I'm in New Jersey. I haven't seen too many.
I literally, I would be like trying to explain, like, okay, this is what's happening. And I had gone through so much, it got to a point where the behavior was I could almost predict what was going to happen. And I would be ahead. I'd say, okay, this is what happened. This is what he's going to do next. And almost like clockwork, that's what would happen. But then, when you're telling it, people, they don't really believe you,
They don't.
And because they don't know boundaries, you don't know what they're capable of. Just like, Mr. Nelson said, they're really dangerous people. You don't know if your safety is in jeopardy, or where they'll stop. They threaten physical harm to themselves, but you don't know if you'll be the victim of that physical harm.
True. And you know what? I feel you on that, because it's like you become an expert. Like, I don't have to read any material on this. Now I'll read it as a reference, but I'm very versed. Like you say, it's almost like you become an expert. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like everyone has advice. Everyone wants to tell you, well, you should try this or you should do this. And it's like, yo, man, you don't know what I know. You understand what I'm saying? Your logic is logical. However, I'm dealing with a person that delves outside of the spectrum of logic. And
Right.
how do you deal with that type of person? You have to really be versed at what to expect, what to do, how to counteract, how to move. There's expertise that goes with this now. Since I've put myself in this position, I gotta either A, learn how to move, or B, swallowed up and consumed by it. And I choose to choose how to execute this with strategy, with precision. You did.
But is it that though? Because what I found when because they don't have any boundaries. If you
Mhm.
don't set any, then they will overrun you. So if I
Mhm.
ignored, then ignoring in my opinion would make it appear as though I would think, okay, if I ignore this, then he's going to think he got away with it. And if he
Mhm.
felt like he got away with it, then he would go that much harder. It's like, like he was getting an adrenaline rush.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I did this, I got away with it. Okay, now I'm gonna do something else. And it was just nonstop, nonstop until I set hard boundaries. And then
Mhm.
when you set the hard boundaries, then it's okay, well, she's crazy, she's being unreasonable. And to people, because at least in my eyes, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, like this is something that's fairly new. Like I didn't hear about narcissists until, a few years ago. So
Mhm.
I don't know if, you know, in the world, whether it's, law enforcement or the judicial system, if they are really aware of narcissistic abuse or, how to handle it when you're explaining it to them, it's like you're speaking a foreign language.
Right. Right. Well, you said something earlier and they kind of like made light of it. I thought it was kind of funny when you said it too. You said my narcissist. So I'm gonna say it to you like this. My narcissist is different from your narcissist. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what works with you and your narcissist may
Uh-huh.
not necessarily work for me and my narcissist in my
Mhm.
situation. She don't deal well with boundaries. I have to go with a different approach.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So my approach is a little bit different. I know what works for her,
Okay.
and so I move accordingly. If I put up boundaries, then that's when she really gone. That's when she's really gonna buck against that. So
Wow.
I have to move in a different way, and it works for me. It does. It
Okay.
actually does work.
And Mr.
Mhm.
Nelson, so you said no contact or get away is one way to deal with the
The best.
narcissist. The best way. What are some
Mhm.
other ways to
Well, you actually just mentioned what I think is the best practice to put in place if you can't get out of it is the ability to set boundaries and the ability for you to now have your own self-care plan. So, um, Jay Boogie, you mentioned like you can't really have boundaries because she's going to go against it. So you have a different way, and in a different way, you actually did put up boundaries because now you know how to move according to what she's doing. But a lot of times, the purpose of the boundary initially
Mhm.
is for them to go up against it and for them to face the repercussions of going up against it. So it's almost like you're training them like a dog.
Mhm.
So that whole punishment and reward system to get them to finally be be respectful of your boundaries without maybe necessarily even realizing that it is a boundary. But I feel like that is the by far the most important thing if you have to remain inside of some form of contact or relationship with this person, because that's the only thing that's going to help keep your own sanity, and only way for you to have some semblance of a life yourself without having to always adjust what you're doing according to this person, and always having to worry about what this person is going to say about this or that. Like you have to find a way to have your own functional life, and boundaries really helps with that.
And that confidence piece that you spoke on earlier, that's a big part of it. You know, big part of it. It's confidence in knowing, okay, hey, I'm not crazy. Okay. And no matter, you know, what it is that's being said by this person to try to manipulate or try to drag me or whatever the case may be, I know who I am as a person. I know my character. And so nothing that can be said can go against that, you know, and that's the confidence.
And a lot of times when I'm counseling somebody, I'll use, it's called reality checking. I do it a lot with people that have anxiety, because they can tend to worry about things and catastrophize about things, that looking at the worst possible outcome. So I'll have them literally just sit and talk through what is the likelihood of this scenario happening, because a narcissist will throw some of the most ridiculous comments about things that they're going to do, and you know, people that are going to help do whatever. Like, you literally have to sit and process, like, how much sense does this make? Like, if I said this to somebody else, would it even make sense to them? Like, you really have to reality check yourself to make sure that you're not just operating based off of their delusion.
Yes. There need to be some kind of help group on this, because that's real talk. That's real talk. That's what they do.
There's some work groups out there for it. It's just specific to your area.
Okay.
Yeah. Miss Creative asked a question. She said, how do you have no contact when you share children?
Yeah, that's the problem. You really.
I actually don't. And I can tell you what worked for me. But you know, each case is different. For me, there are no phone calls allowed. Communications have to be by email. Those email communications have to be related to the children. After my narcissist, after the manipulation through the law enforcement was unsuccessful, and you know, law enforcement stopped cooperating, then he went to the judicial system. So then he dragged me to court because he wanted to alter our parenting agreement. And once he did that, then attorneys got involved. After attorneys were involved, I think after reality set in and he realized, okay, this costs money, then it was, okay, well, now I want to talk. Well, nope, now I can't talk to you because there's attorneys involved. So you have to have your attorney contact my attorney. So now all communications go through the attorneys. And then my attorney relays the message to me and we go from there. When there's exchange of children, a door is cracked just enough for kids to get out with whatever belongings. And the same thing happens when they come home. So he doesn't actually see me. We don't actually talk. We literally, the only contact is through email. And you know how
so you do have contact, but you set up such a great system of boundaries that it's not contact that's on their terms. Right. It's on your terms.
Exactly. There's no physical. He can't see me. He can't touch me. Any of that. Whatever you say, then there's a paper trail of what you said. So then, you know, if I need to go to somebody else afterward, then I have a paper trail and we're going from there.
And that's really good on you, because it takes so much patience in order to be able to do that, to go through those steps. People get so worn out by going from lawyer to lawyer, from court to court.
And it's expensive. It's expensive. I can't tell you. I lost track of how much money I've spent on attorney's fees.
But you can't put a price tag on peace.
You can't. And that's exactly how I described it. I said, my peace is priceless. I'll be here as long as he's here. I don't care how much it's going to cost me. I'm going to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
And it
That's
works.
great.
I got to jump out of here. I want to thank you for
Yeah.
having me, brother. Thank you for the great information. I will say, as far as the children's situation, it's difficult but not impossible, and just minimize the contact as much as you can. What worked for me, I got both my girls iPads when they were like 5 and 7, and set up their FaceTime accounts, and that's primarily how we communicate. That's worked for the last 3 or 4 years, and I have very minimal contact with the mom outside of money. Hey, that's what Cash App is for. All right, thank you for having me.
Joining
Great
us.
talking
Thanks
with
for
you.
joining us.
All right, take it easy.
Yeah, it's terrible. The reign of terror that they have on you. Hey, Sir Hale. The reign of terror is it's a roller coaster ride, but I'm glad to hear that, my boundary system is working, or is a good thing, because
Oh yeah.
we didn't know that, like I said, there's no instruction for how to navigate that space. So you just kind of fumble your way through it.
Because the
So
psychology is such a soft science that it's hard to put hard and fast rules on what to do and how to interpret things. So,
mhm,
narcissism isn't necessarily new, but in terms of how we react to it and like all the legal process, that stuff's not really in place.
okay. Well, that should be an agenda for somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I know that you're on a different coast. I think you're in a different time zone than us. And
Yeah,
it's a
for
little
me, it
bit
is
later.
coming up on, it's like 11:30 something.
Oh, geez. Well, I thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us, Candid Answers. This was a powerful conversation. Yes, yes, it was. And I thank you for being here. And I hope you come back to join us again, because we want to promote counseling in the Black community. And wait, you got a YouTube. Let's shout out your YouTube and your business before you leave.
Oh, my YouTube is Nelson Counseling. It's still a work in progress, because I'm deciding to use that platform. I am going to be talking about narcissism, but I talk about other mental health issues, and I talk about how it plays roles inside of our relationships. But I'm spending the most time doing series of short 5 to 10 minute films that display a mental health disorder in action, so that way we can kind of start to break down some stuff and like what we see and see some practical applications of these things. So it takes a little bit longer. So yeah. Sir Hell Speaks. I love the guy. How you doing? What's going on? Good
Yes.
to see you. But yeah, if any of you have any ideas for different scenarios that you want to see reenacted, please let me know, and I'll do my best to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hope you come on to the show again so
Oh,
we can
anytime.
talk about something. I know we have a lot of veterans that have been a part of our panel and in our chats, and they've, briefly mentioned PTSD related to war and things like that. But we want to kind of delve into all of these things that are affecting the Black community. So anytime, we would most definitely like to have you back on the show.
Anytime. Seriously.
Yes. And if somebody is interested in seeking counseling, how can they get a hold of you?
If you go to psychologytoday.com, that's the best way to find a therapist, because not every therapist can. It's going to be dependent on state. So I can
Okay.
practice in New Jersey and Texas. But if you need counseling in general, the best place to go is psychologytoday.com, because you can put your zip code in and it'll give you a whole list of therapists that are in your area that have a specialty in practice or anything like that. But if you just have like general questions or like looking for like some type of referral or anything like that, you can shoot me an email at nelsongcn12@nelsoncounseling.org, or reach out to me through any of my social media. Instagram is at Nelson Counseling, YouTube is Nelson Counseling. Send me an email and I'll do my best to help in any way I can.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful show. Brianna said this was amazing. Yes, it was. Oh my God, it was awesome. Awesome. So again, blessings, blessings, blessings to you. And thank you for participating today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And we look forward to seeing you in the YouTube streets. Everybody, if you have not, even if it's a work in progress, go over to his YouTube page, Nelson Counseling's channel. The link is dropped in the chat by our awesome moderator. You guys go over there, like, share, and subscribe to his channel. And more importantly, tune in to his stream if he goes live, watch the videos once he posts, and shoot him some ideas of some topics that you want to see reenacted or acted out in the scenarios that he's going to put on for you guys. Absolutely. And yeah, so y'all, happy Saturday. We are out of here, and I'm going to get in my pajamas and go get in the bed and get myself together. So hopefully I'm in better shape by tomorrow. But thank you again for being here. I appreciate you. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thanks again. I appreciate anytime you need me, let me know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you stick around in the back, I'm going to end the show and we'll chat a little bit.
Okay.
All right, y'all. We are out of here. It's been fun. Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to the Book of Genesis with your host, Genesis. If you would like to be a blessing, would like to be interviewed, or if you or someone you know would like exposure for your business, call us at 708-595-7500. Again, 708-595-7500. Email at genesis@thebookofgenesis.com. That's JENNESIS @thebookofgenesis. JENNESIS.com, or contact us by regular mail at P.O. Box 40, Monique, Illinois 60449. Thank you again for listening to the Book of Genesis.